Hey y'all, so we're going to talk real quick. I get a lot of questions about how to appropriately go about starting a listing and what all goes into it. I know I've shared some other things like what goes into getting paid, and you can review those other videos, but this one's going to be listing specific. So we start by going to Dotloop. I'm going to do all this in Dotloop, and if you have questions about another platform such as DocuSign, we can get that bridge when we get there. But we're going to start by adding a loop. And so we'll just, act like 123 Main Street, see what comes up. We'll go here, pretend that this Alaska address is here in Ohio, okay? Sound good? Now, is that gonna be a listing loop or a buyer's loop? Obviously, this is a listing loop because we are gonna be the agent selling that home. I don't waste time uploading a photo. Let's skip that. Once we've created the loop, it's very simple. We just go right into it. View loop, you can do it here, or you can click directly on this. Pretend, again, this is an Ohio address, okay? So you'll notice right at the top here, residential property disclosure. That'll need to be filled out. Property disclosure essentially discloses any defects with the home that you can't see with the naked eye. So things like leaks, is water adequate for the home? Has there been roof leaks before, basement water backups, sewage, etc. Lead-based paint disclosure, if the home was built before 1970, 78, then you need to do the lead-based paint disclosure. And if not, then you don't need to worry about it. But these documents need to be confirmed by the seller, signed by the seller, and you'll also initial those in the bottom right-hand corner of each page on the RPD here. We call it the RPD, it's a little abbreviation. And then you'll upload these to your actual MLS listing. So when you're actually in the MLS, you're going to upload those to your listing. So please don't call and ask me, what do I do with these documents? You fill them out, get them signed and initialed, and then you upload those to your MLS listing so the other agents have access to this information. It's pretty important, right? Other things that you'll need to get signed: consumer guide, electronic signature, anti-fraud, appointment of agent. Okay. Now, if you're using this same, or if you have the same clients for a buy side as well, and you maybe already have those documents filled out, you can actually just copy and paste these four into your new loop right here. So you don't have to go asking for them again. Nice little trick. Before you get started, you also want to add the person and make sure that you name yourself as the buying agent. So you'll go there, then you'll add a person. Let's just say John Smith. Boop, boop, boop. And you'll add their email address. You don't need to add all their phone numbers and home address. You don't need to worry about that. Just their email address. That's all they need. Once you've done that, there's a couple of documents that you'll need for a listing that you don't necessarily need for a buyer. So Mls Residential Worksheet, and also the exclusive right to sell contract. Let's talk about the exclusive right to sell contract real quick, just a high level. People ask me all the time, what should be the percent? Now this will ask me for autofill, and normally I would have a person that I would select here. I would have the address that would automatically populate, and then I would ask, the question I was going to ask was, what is the commission rate? Is it just my commission rate, or is it the total overall? We always put the total overall, which just in my situation is typically right around 6%. So if I'm representing the buyer, the seller, and then another agent's representing the buyer, the buyer agent's gonna get 3% and I get 3%. So it's a total of 6%. So we put 6% right there. Expiration date, I typically go 6 months out in this market. There might be markets where we're struggling to sell homes and we might put a year. It's all up to you. Whatever you can get your clients to sign is what it will be. Listing date, you can do that for whenever you plan to list. Original price, you should have a ballpark. I tend to tell my clients that we're not going to zero in on an exact price until probably a day or two before we actually list, because real estate's so hyper local. And if something was to go up for sale across the street the day before we were going to list, then that might change our approach a little bit. Add remarks. Remarks I'll get to here in a second. So we'll click autofill. And then you see the document. The document says seller hereby grants to blank brokerage. You can fill all this stuff in. This is easy stuff. This is the address, this is the price, the list date, showing start date. Now you can do showings, whenever you decide. I typically list on Wednesday and show the home, start showings on Fridays. Realtor's fees is where you'd have your 6%. Now, if you were doing a buy sell and maybe you were going to give them a % discount, then you'd put 5% here. Subagents, no. I've never used other broker as a subagent, but we are going to pay the buyer broker. So the buyer's agent, essentially. Boop, yes. Protection period, I typically don't fill this out. If you feel the need to, then you can. Make sure you take a second to get familiar with this document, as there are several different points of emphasis here that you want your sellers to know about prior to signing. Always use a lockbox if you can, make it easy for the other side. And then we want to grant permission to appraisers and inspectors, etc. typically, so seller does. Surveillance, this is a newer piece here. Notate if there is surveillance or if there's not. If there is surveillance, I always try to tell my guys not to look in on that because I just feel it's a little shady, to be honest. Fair housing, this is super important. We're not going to stereotype against anybody or refuse people to walk through the house based off the way that their name sounds or all these different statuses. Lastly, here you make sure that they sign here, put their address. You sign down here along with your brokerage name. Signed this day, yada, yada. Remarks, this is where I typically break down the commission. So if I'm going to be collecting 2%, then I'll say 2% to listing agent, 3% to buyer agent, just to clarify. Cool. So this is super simple. We're going to save. Always make sure you save. Don't just exit because it doesn't automatically save. So save, pop, and it'll save. We're going to go back out, and now we're going to focus on the MLS Residential Worksheet. Get a lot of questions on this. There's some funky terminology in here. It doesn't really autofill much, so we're not missing out on much. A lot of this is very simple and self-explanatory. MLS number, you're not going to have this until you go active on the MLS. So you may not be filling that out until afterwards. Listing number, that's me or you. Street number, street name, all this stuff is very easy to get. If you're having struggles, go to the auditor's site within your county, and that will tell you all this information that you need to know. List price, go with a ballpark. Again, we might not decide on a list price until the day of or day before a listing. Subtype, typically single family freestanding. You may have condos. You may have other options. Is it a high rise? Probably not. So you're not going to do anything located on floor here. Subdivision and complex. Now, I should back up. Why are we doing this residential worksheet? This is a cover your butt document in case the Columbus board was to audit your files or to audit Keller Williams, the brokerage, the market center's files. So this is really just a repeat of what you'll be inputting when you go to actually put the listing active in the MLS. Cool? Cool. School district, again, all this stuff can be found on like previous listings, or if you're really struggling to figure some of these things out, pull up a neighboring home within that subdivision, and that'll tell you a lot of stuff as well. Or again, just go to the auditor's site. Showing phone number, since you're with Keller Williams, we have access to showing time. That phone number is 614-255-5588. Buyer broker. Are we going to be paying the buyer broker? The answer is yes. So we say Y or yes, whatever here. And then the amount, it's typically 3%, but we don't set our commissions here. So whatever you decide to do. Subagency, no. Therefore that would be blank. Subagency would be blank. Sold non-MLS, not typically. That's why we're putting in the MLS, so no. VRC stands for variable rate commission. Here in Central Ohio, we don't typically do that. In other parts of the state, such as Cleveland, they do variable rate commission, but here it'd be a no. Auction, no. Possession, you can write this in if you need to, otherwise you don't have to. List date, all these things are things that you've already collected. Listing agreement type, it's typically an exclusive right to sell. Direct negotiation with a seller permitted. No, that's why we get paid. We want to be the negotiator so that the seller doesn't have to. So no. Style, Simple, 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 simple. All this stuff right here, very simple. Community development charge, you might ask, what is that? Well, in a lot of HOAs or condo complexes, maybe they will have a community development charge aimed at maybe paving the roads, or they're going to be replacing all the roofs. Those are some things that might show up here, but typically that answer is going to be no. Tax district, parcel, these are all things that you can find on the auditor's site, as well as the taxes for the previous year. Taxes obviously are paid in arrears, so that's why we go with previous year. Property description, this is where you get to write in your remarks here. I'm not going to be a poet here, but if you are struggling with what to type, pull up one of my previous listings, pull up any other previous listing that you've seen, and steal shamelessly. Don't go with a book here, and yet don't go with one sentence. You need to describe it and describe all the top amenities that this house has. Very important. Agent-to-agent remarks might be something like, hey, the title company will be this. Or if you're on a team, maybe send all questions, comments, concerns, and offers to this email. Or if there's maybe construction that the agent may not know about, say, hey, construction is going to be happening from June to July, and it'll be done in August. That might be good information above and beyond what you've already supplied. Directions are simple. You know how to write directions. There are 4 pages to the MLS worksheet, so it is kind of lengthy, but when you've done this once, then it makes it really easy to transition it right over into the MLS. So additional acceptance condition, typically none known. Bedrooms, up to would mean if this was like a 5-story split. In typical fashion, we have 2-story splits. And then entry level would be at the entrance level. Down 1 would be basement. Down 2 would be the basement's basement, which I've never seen. So fill out all this stuff to the best of your ability, and you're just checking boxes. Click. HOA. If there's an HOA in the housing development, then you're going to include what the HOA pays for. It could be common area only, which is typical in like residential areas. Maybe it's just the entrance. Or if it's in an actual condo development, maybe they do snow removal, security, sewer, etc. Find your HOA contact name. Just ask the client right from the get-go, for all this information. Open this up ahead of time and get used to and familiar with what it says. Fireplace, you're going to have 2 check marks in here. Maybe it's just one fireplace. It's either gas log or log wood burning in most situations. Answer all these things to the best of your ability. Then on the last page here, warranty. Are you supplying a home warranty? Is your seller supplying one? A home warranty can be supplied at your own cost. Odds are if the buyer requests one, you're going to be buying it anyways, so you might as well protect yourself while you're listing. Protect the sellers, that is. Accessible features. This is like, in my opinion, I think that's handicapped accessible features, like ADA features, larger doorways, wheelchair ramps. Typically, it's probably going to be a no. New financing, list all the things. Some homes would never sell FHA because there's too much wrong with them, or VA. So you might say conventional only. Leased items, these would be things like if there's propane, if it's propane heat, then that might be one of those items. MLS primary photo source would be realtor provided in most situations. And some of the stuff you won't even fill out if it doesn't apply. I don't ever fill this type stuff out here. I never really fill this out. You can if you want, and if it applies to you. These things will be signed. Your address down here. You'll sign here and fill this stuff out. Cool. It's very easy. It does take a little bit of time, but again, it's not rocket science. So hopefully this was helpful. These are the documents that you need in order to appropriately list a home. So if you have any questions, feel free to holler at me. Otherwise, like and subscribe so you have access to all the latest videos that I create for y'all. Cool? God bless you. Have a wonderful day.